Amazing Couples by Victor Yup and Doris Mock. Chapter 6. A Parent's Work is Never Done. Judges chapter 14 verse 1 to chapter 15 verse 1. Have you heard of the Are You Ready for Children test? Mess test. Smear peanut butter on the sofa and curtains. Now rub your hands in the wet flower bed and rub on the walls. Cover the stains with crayons. Place a fish stick behind the couch and leave it there all summer. Toy test. Obtain a 55-gallon box of Legos. If Legos are not available, you may substitute roofing tacks or broken bottles. Have a friend spread them all over the house. Put a blindfold. Try to walk to the bathroom or kitchen. Do not scream. This could wake a child at night. Grocery store test. Borrow one or two small animals, goats are best, and take them with you as you shop at the grocery store. Always keep them in sight and pay for anything they eat or damage. Dressing test. Obtain one large, unhappy live octopus. Stuff into a small net bag, making sure that all arms stay inside. Feeding test. Obtain a large plastic milk jug. Fill halfway with water. Suspend from the ceiling with a stout cord. Start the jug swinging. Try to insert spoonfuls of soggy cereal, such as Fruit Loops or Cheerios, into the mouth of the jug while pretending to be an airplane. Now dump the contents of the jug on the floor. Night test. Prepare by obtaining a small cloth bag and fill it with 8 to 12 pounds of sand. Soak it thoroughly in water. At 8 p.m., begin to waltz and hum with the bag until 9 p.m. Lay down your bag and set your alarm for 10 p.m. Get up, pick up your bag, and sing every song you have ever heard. Make up about a dozen more and sing these too until 4 a.m. Set alarm for 5 a.m. Get up and make breakfast. Keep this up for 5 years. Look cheerful. One of the sweetest couples in the Bible is Manoah and his wife, but the child was more than a handful, more than any normal parent could handle. The child was a special gift and a miracle child when the couple was childless. From the beginning, the couple knew that they were merely entrusted with the task of raising Samson, and that God had other plans for him. The emerging adult Samson had superhuman strength, drew national attention, and was destined for great things. He was set apart by God from birth to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Judges 13:5. How do parents prepare their hearts and their child to experience life's successes and setbacks, its twists and turns, and his friends and foes? What if your child is a gifted child? How do you help him or her fulfill his or her potential and avoid the pitfalls? First, parenting is a privileged responsibility. Judges chapter 13, verses 12 to 14. So Manoah asked him, "When your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule for the boy's life and work?" The angel of the Lord answered, "Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her." Judges 13, verse 24. The woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mahane Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. USA Today released the results of a survey by Public Agenda, a nonprofit research organization, on how 1,607 parents of kids ages 5 to 17 feel and say about their success in raising kids and the hurdles and hindrances of child rearing. 91% of the parents said honesty is essential, but only 55% said they have succeeded in teaching it. 84% of adults said courtesy is essential, and 62% have succeeded in teaching it. 83% of parents said it is vital to teach kids self-control, but only 34% admitted they have succeeded. 82% believe it is essential to teach their children to do their best in school, but only 50% can say they have gotten their message across. 74% said independence is essential, but only 38% said they have conveyed it successfully. 70% said good money habits are essential, but only a mere 28% said the message is gotten across. About 90% of the same parents lament that said TV programs are getting worse every year because of bad language and adult themes in shows during prime time. However, 93% say TV is all right so long as children watch the right shows in moderation. Manoah and his wife were godly believers and parents, and they took the roles of marriage and parenting very seriously. In fear and trembling, they sought God's will and asked for advice on raising the child God gave them. Manoah already heard from his wife what the angel of God had told her, Judges 13:5, but he wanted to learn more. No one could blame him. God has promised his wife not an ordinary child, but a hero, a champion, a warrior, the nation's treasure, deliverer, and leader, Judges 13:5. The weight of expectation was too much for one parent to carry alone. He could not fathom it and would not allow it. The verb describing Manoah's praying, athar, in verse 8 is not the more general Hebrew word for praying, palal, that occurs 84 times in the Bible, but the more urgent word for prayer that occurs 20 times, 8 of them for Pharaoh's pleading for Moses to intercede for him. Exodus 8:8, 9, 28, 29, 30, 9:28, 10:17, and 18. The King James Version and the NASB translate this word as entreat. Manoah's prayer was urgent, uninterrupted, and unrelenting. Another thing about Manoah was that he defied the role of a traditional father in child rearing. The phrase father and mother occurs 6 times in chapter 14, verses 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9, more prominent than in any other chapter in the Bible. Both parents were happily and heavily involved in parenting. The couple's model of parenting was a 2-parent family. He said us twice in verse 8. Manoah was implying, what about me? Yes, you came to my wife, but now please come to us. Involve me in the process. Teach me your way. Let me help. Use me. The soon-to-be parent Manoah refused to be an absentee father, a couch potato, or a house loafer. He was the diaper-changing, milk-feeding, and baby-cuddling father. Better, he needed no nagging, no crisis, and no incentives. He enjoyed it, not endured it. He rejoiced in it, was not resentful of it, informed, and not ignorant of it. Note that Manoah was not giddy that a child was born to the childless couple. He was more concerned for instructions on how to raise the child, Judges 13:12, rather than if the promise was true. The interesting thing was that the angel left the day-by-day course of parenting to them. No more did the angel appear again to the couple, Judges 13:21. God told them enough, but not everything. Does not that describe a parent's circumstances, challenge, and confusion? The couple carried out the task entrusted to them faithfully. They stuck to the Nazirite vow, read every parenting book they could find, not that they could find any, and milked the neighbors dry for every last piece of advice. They did their part and their best. Pretty soon, Samson's build was a sight to behold, and his potential was the talk of Israel. Manoah and his wife were proud parents. Secretly, they wished they could hold him back, keep him home, or chase admirers away, but they knew they could not lengthen his youth or delay his growth, control his thoughts or steps, and shelter him from pain or life. Second, parenting is a personal restraint. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." His father and mother replied, "Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?" But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me. She's the right one for me." His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. A young boy had just received his driver's permit and inquired of his father, an evangelist, if they could discuss the use of the car. His father took him to the study and said to the boy, "I'll make a deal with you, son. You bring your grades up from a C to a B average, study your Bible a little, and get your hair cut, and we'll talk about the car." Well, the boy thought about that for a moment and decided that he'd best settle for the offer, and they agreed. After about 6 weeks, the boy came back and again asked his father about the car. Again, they went to the study where his father said, "Son, I have been really proud of you. You've brought your grades up, and I have observed that you've been studying your Bible and participating a lot more in the Bible study class on Sunday morning. But I'm real disappointed since you haven't got your hair cut." The young man paused a moment and then said, "You know, Dad, I have been thinking about that, and I've noticed in my studies of the Bible that Samson had long hair, Moses had long hair, John the Baptist had long hair, and there's even strong argument that Jesus himself may have had long hair." To which his father replied, "You're right, son. Did you also notice that they all walked everywhere they went?" Samson, Israel's fiercest and most feared judge, was born with talents other parents could only dream of, but he lived a life of total indifference and utter disregard for the opportunities and advantages he was bestowed in life. The Spirit of the Lord had stirred in him, but Samson had other pursuits, priorities, and pleasures. Worse, he fell in love with a Philistine woman, with one from the people who ruled over Israel, Judges 14:4. Marrying an unbeliever was against God's will. Deuteronomy 7:3-5 says, "Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods, and the Lord's anger will burn against you and will quickly destroy you." His bride-to-be was from the enemy camp and was also an unbeliever, an idol worshiper. Samson told his parents that he was willing to give up everything and chuck everything away for the love of a Philistine woman he saw from a distance. Worst, his tone had changed as if he was obsessed. He said, "Get her for me. She's the right one for me." Judges 14:3. He was at the omniscient and impenetrable by sword and spear young age. He was so opinionated, vocal, dogmatic, sure about everything, about the difference between Israelite woman and Philistine woman, about how he could remain a judge and a mediator of the two people, about how he could worship Yahweh and stay faithful to God, eventually winning his wife over. Nothing the parents could do or had done could prepare them for this day. Their question and challenge was rudely brushed aside, and they could do little. Judges 14:3. Their objection was voiced, but their hands were tied, so they bit their tongue. Already, their son's words cut like a knife as he lashed out at them. Nevertheless, they could bear with his rudeness, but not his recklessness, his ignorance about idols, but not his indifference to God, and even his naive thinking, but not his neutral mindset. However, Manoah and wife did not blame God or themselves for their son's strong will, simple-mindedness, and stubborn streak. Still, they could not understand why their son suddenly had become an extremely difficult, disrespectful, and disobedient child. Overnight, over a trip and over a girl, Samson had turned a blind eye to his God-given destiny, closed a deaf ear to his worried parents, and developed a razor tongue, a motor mouth, and an emerging attitude. Manoah and his wife eventually saw in Samson what every parent saw in the child's weakness, that he was just a child, childish, immature, and reckless. True, he was big in size, brave in heart, and bankable in battle, but he let his heart rule his head, his muscles do the talking, and his testosterone work overtime. The stubborn Samson did not listen and soon wrecked his marriage, even though he did not mean or intend to, letting his parents, friends, and country down and bringing others down with him. Third, parenting is a permanent relationship. Judges chapter 14, verses 19 to 20. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of their belongings, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he went up to his father's house, and Samson's wife was given to the friend who had attended him at his wedding. The last stage of parenthood is when young people transition to responsible adults. Terry Apter calls the 18 to 25 age group the thresholders, saying, legally they are adults, but they're on the threshold, the doorway to adulthood, and they're not going to go through it. The National Opinion Research Center found that most people believe that the transition to adulthood should be completed by the age of 26 on average, but today's emerging adults are spenders, slackers, and super seniors. One way society defines an adult is as a person who is financially independent, with a family and a home. Timothy Smeeding, a professor of economics at Syracuse University, found that only half of Americans in their mid-20s earn enough to support a family, and in a Time poll, only half of those ages 18 to 29 consider themselves financially independent. Michigan's Robert Scoyne says that Americans ages 25 and 26 get an average of $2,323 a year in financial support from the parents. A Time poll of 601 people ages 18 to 29 suggests that only 32% of those who attended college left school by age 21. The average college student takes 5 years to finish. Time poll asked the question, what is the main reason you do not consider yourself an adult? 35% admitted just enjoying life the way it is. 33% said not financially independent, and 13% answered not out of school. 32% disclosed that they spend more than most people eating out. 26% spend more than others on clothes. 17% confessed they spend more than others on going to or renting movies, and 12% said they spend more than others on computers and software. What did Samson do a whole week? Verse 18, after the wedding ceremony and honeymoon, after a bitter row had erupted and ended. Verse 19. After Samson found out that his wife had given away the answer to her people, he felt that she had sided with her people rather than with him. The newly married Samson seethed in anger, stormed out the house, and left without a word. If storming off and going out was not bad enough, he did not return to his wife for quite a while, until harvest day. Where did he go when things did not go right, smooth, or as planned? Back to Mama's place. Poor Manoah and his wife. His son was taller, stronger, and fiercer than them. Further, Samson was too old to scold and too big to beat. The parents were too discouraged and bewildered, and it was too late to do anything. When they said no, he said yes. When they said yes, he said no. In the end, both parties said, "I do not know." How Manoah and wife wished their son would grow up as an adult, own up to his mistakes, and wise up to life. But Samson was like a Peter Pan who refused to grow up. Samson was nothing like his parents, who were faithful to each other. He left his wife and her house without a note or a trace. He did not even bother to find out how she was doing. If he did, he would have found out that she had remarried. Samson's relationship with his wife got off to the worst start possible. Making your wife cry one day is inevitable. Making her cry on the wedding day and the honeymoon was inexcusable and inappropriate. Making her cry the whole 7 days, verse 17, with her tears in her food was insane and impossible. Samson blamed his wife, but he put her in the awkward and impossible situation. She was not the same as Delilah, the only other woman Samson loved. Judges 14:16, 16:4, and 15, besides the wife he married. His wife did not press or nag him for the sake of 1,100 pieces of silver, like Delilah did. Judges 16:5. She was fighting for his life, her life, and her family's life. She attempted to make the troubles Samson started go away, hoping to put an end to the crisis and get the Philistines off her back. Conclusion. Parents are the unsung heroes today. Parenting is increasingly an endless task, a lifetime responsibility, and a tiring chore. It is a sweet, sour, bitter, and spicy job, anything but mild, and not a job for the meek, the arrogant, or the clueless. It humbles the proud, stumps the learned, and disheartens the brave. Parents will have to stick to their children through thick and thin, and through their ups and downs. Traditional parents who raised their kids to take care of them in their old age have come to the realization that they may have to take care of their kids longer than they thought, and eventually may have to abandon the idea of their being caretakers. The wise parent is one who is thankful that the child has the ability to take care of himself, his wife, and his kids. Finally, parents who think they can teach kids a thing or two will also realize the lesson is for and on them as well, if not more. Are you praying with and not just for your child? Have you helped them to know God and not about God? Have you imparted your values, but not modeled the values? Do you invite and welcome your child to embrace faith and home? Bible study questions. Warm up. How can couples help build the spiritual foundation of each other? Group study. 1. List all the characters in the passage, the roles of Manoah and wife, the identity of Samson as a Nazirite. Numbers 6, verse 1 to 21. 2. What message did the messenger of God bring? 13, 3 to 4. 3. When did this story take place? What era? 13 verse 1. 4. When did the angels visit the couple a second time? 5. Why did Manoah ask God to reveal himself again? 13 verse 8. Why did the angel reappear? 6. How did Manoah and his wife understand the concept of sacrifice? How did God bless the couple? Compare and contrast. The angel's advice on the first visit, and the angel's advice the second time. Manoah's question, and the angel's reply. Progression. 1. Describe from chapter 13 the progress in the spiritual walk of Manoah and wife. 2. described from chapter 13 how the Lord progressively revealed himself in the life of the couple. Group sharing. 1. For couples. A. Share one strength of your spouse. B. Share one spiritual lesson you learned today or this week. Practice listening and respond at the appropriate time. C. Pray together and make a commitment to have family worship. 2. A. Share your spouse's strong points for edifying you. B. Talk about the challenges and advantages of having family devotions. From Doris, the psychologist's desk. Family worship begins with couples worship. In the passage of Manoah and his wife, chapter 13, we noted that the process of coming to worship and building an altar is entirely initiated by God. It is our privilege to respond to his love. First, share with each other what you have learned. Practice sharing daily what you have learned from the Lord. Even one short thanksgiving or one brief reflection is a good start. It takes time for a good habit to develop. If you regress because you are being extremely busy, begin again as soon as possible. A brief moment focusing on the Lord with all our heart is more important than an elaborate process. Note of caution. Do not use sharing as a way to educate your spouse or present your complaints. Focus on the Lord. By the Lord's grace, with time you will be sharing more intimately. You can even choose a topic: learning to be patient, humility, work challenges, and grow together to deepen your understanding. Second, show appreciation or gratitude to each other. This is a key element in marriage. Highlight one thing that you are thankful for in the other person. This can be about your spouse's qualities or something he or she does. Appealing to others' goodness is essential. Third, invite your children to join you. Young children or adult children can participate just as well. The following are some suggestions to follow at the dinner table in seeking God's blessings in your family. 1. Have a treasure box of Bible verses and read one verse together as a family before each meal. 2. Share a happy event or a lesson learned during the day. 3. Share something for which you are thankful to God or for each other. Showing gratitude is one of the keys to happiness. Couples sharing. 1. Share one quality about your spouse you particularly appreciate. 2. Share one spiritual lesson you learned today or this week. Practice intentional listening. Give your spouse response and feedback. Pray together and commit to daily worship in the family. Group sharing. 1. Share qualities about your spouse in the larger group so everyone can appreciate each other. 2. Share challenges as well as tips for family worship.